You've optimized your morning routine, tried every productivity method, downloaded all the apps that promise to make you more efficient, and you're still waking up with this crushing emptiness in your chest that no amount of checking boxes or hitting goals can touch. Because the problem was never that you weren't doing enough. It's that nothing you're doing actually matters to you, and you've been so busy trying to be productive that you forgot to ask yourself what you're even being productive for, what all this efficiency is building toward, whether the life you're optimizing is even a life you want to live. You're drowning in task lists and calendar blocks and systems for managing your time, treating your existence like a project that needs better management, when really what's broken isn't your productivity. It's your purpose. It's the fact that you're moving fast in a direction you never chose. Climbing a ladder you're not sure is leaning against the right wall, winning a game you don't even want to play. And all that motion, all that hustle, all that relentless doing is just a sophisticated way of avoiding the terrifying question that's been waiting for you in the silence. What is the point of any of this if it doesn't mean anything, if you're just going through motions that someone else decided were important, if you're building a life that looks successful from the outside but feels completely hollow from the inside? You've been sold the lie that if you can just get productive enough, disciplined enough, efficient enough, everything will fall into place and you'll finally feel fulfilled. But productivity without purpose is just organized emptiness, and no amount of optimization is going to fill the void where your meaning is supposed to be. You wake up and immediately check your to-do list before you check in with yourself, before you even ask if this is what you want to be doing with your one wild and precious life. You feel guilty when you're not working, like rest is something you have to earn by being productive first, like your worth is measured in output. You celebrate finishing tasks but feel nothing, because checking boxes isn't the same as building something you care about. You're exhausted all the time but you can't stop moving because stopping would mean facing the fact that you don't actually know what you're moving toward. You look at your achievements, your completed projects, your impressive productivity stats, and feel completely disconnected from all of it, like you're watching someone else's life. You've become so good at doing that you forgot how to be, so focused on the how that you never asked the why, so obsessed with efficiency that you optimized yourself right out of feeling anything real. You read books about productivity, watch videos about morning routines, follow people who wake up at 5 a.m. and have their entire day planned to the minute, and you think if you can just find the right system, the right method, the right hack, then this emptiness will go away, but it won't, because the emptiness isn't from doing things wrong. It's from doing things that don't matter, from spending your finite time and energy on a life that you're not even sure you chose, that might have just happened to you while you were too busy being productive to notice. You weren't born feeling like a machine that needs to optimize its output, like a project that needs better management, like a resource that needs to maximize its productivity. This was taught to you by a culture that values efficiency over meaning, that measures success in accomplishments rather than fulfillment, that convinced you that the answer to feeling empty is to do more, be more, achieve more, when really the emptiness comes from doing things that do not connect to anything deeper than the doing itself. You learned that busy equals important, that productive equals valuable, that if you're not constantly grinding, then you're wasting your potential. And somewhere in that programming you lost the ability to distinguish between motion and meaning, between being busy and being alive, between productivity that serves a purpose you actually care about, and productivity that's just a distraction from the fact that you do not know what your purpose is. You started treating your life like a business, your time like a resource to be allocated, your existence like a problem to be solved with better systems, and in the process you turned yourself into someone who's incredibly good at doing things, but has no idea why they're doing them, who can accomplish tasks with impressive efficiency, but can't remember the last time they felt genuinely excited about their own life, who's built this perfectly optimized existence that feels like living in a beautiful prison where everything works exactly as it should, except you. Here's the truth that nobody in the productivity space wants you to hear, because there's no course to sell you, no system to buy, no hack to implement. You don't have a productivity problem, you have a meaning problem, and no amount of optimization is going to fix that, because you can't be efficient your way into a life that matters. You can't time block your way into purpose. You can't hack your way into fulfillment. Productivity is a tool, and like any tool, it's only useful if you're building something that actually matters to you. But you've been using the tool without knowing what you're building, treating productivity like it's the destination instead of just a vehicle, and that's why you can accomplish everything on your list and still feel empty, why you can have the most optimized routine in the world and still wake up wondering what the point of all this is. The people selling you productivity systems are selling you a solution to a problem you do not have, while ignoring the problem you do have, which is that you're lost, you're disconnected from any sense of why you're here or what you're supposed to be doing with your life. And instead of sitting with that terrifying uncertainty, instead of doing the hard, messy, uncomfortable work of figuring out what actually matters to you, you're trying to productivity your way out of an existential crisis, and it's not working because it can't work. Because no system in the world can tell you what your life is supposed to mean. You have to figure that out yourself, and it's going to be uncomfortable, and there's no 5-step process for it, and it might take years, and you might get it wrong, and that's exactly why you've been avoiding it by staying busy. Meaning doesn't come from doing more. It comes from doing what matters, from aligning your actions with something deeper than just accomplishment for its own sake. From building a life that's connected to values you actually hold, rather than values you absorbed from a culture that measures worth in productivity metrics. You need to stop. Completely. Not forever, but long enough to ask yourself what you actually care about when nobody's watching. What you'd do with your time if you weren't trying to impress anyone or meet anyone's expectations or live up to some image of what a successful life looks like. What makes you feel something other than this numb sense of checking boxes because you're supposed to? The answer might not come immediately, might not be clear, might change as you grow. But asking the question is more important than any productivity system you could implement, because once you know what matters, productivity becomes natural. It's not something you have to force or optimize or hack. It's just what happens when you're working towards something you actually care about. When your actions are connected to meaning instead of just motion. When you're building something that feels like it belongs to you instead of something you're doing because you think you should. Stop optimizing your life and start examining it. Stop trying to be more productive and start trying to be more honest about whether the things you're being productive at are things that actually matter to you or just things you've been conditioned to believe should matter. You can start now, not with another system or another morning routine or another productivity hack, but with a simple, brutal inventory of your life. Look at how you spend your time, your energy, your attention, and ask yourself honestly whether any of it connects to something that feels meaningful. Something that would matter to you if nobody ever knew about it. Something you'd choose even if it didn't make you look productive or successful or impressive. Most of what you're doing probably doesn't pass that test, and that's going to be painful to realize that you've been spending years being incredibly productive at building a life you don't actually want. But that pain is necessary because it's the beginning of actually changing something instead of just optimizing the same empty existence. Cut out everything that doesn't connect to meaning, even if it's productive, even if it makes you look good, even if other people think you should be doing it, and create space. Not to fill immediately with more tasks, but to sit in and feel uncomfortable in, and eventually use to explore what actually matters to you. What you'd build if you weren't so busy maintaining systems that don't serve anything real. Talk to people about things deeper than goals and productivity. Spend time doing things that can't be optimized because they're about the experience rather than the outcome. Let yourself be unproductive in ways that might actually teach you something about who you are when you're not performing efficiency. Meaning is messy, it's personal, it's different for everyone, and it can't be systematized or optimized or hacked because it comes from a part of you that exists below all that surface level, doing a part that knows what matters, even when your conscious mind has forgotten a part that's been trying to tell you something through that persistent emptiness you feel despite all your accomplishments. Listen to it, even though it's scary, even though it might mean admitting that you've been moving in the wrong direction, that you've been productive at the wrong things, that you've built a life that needs to be partially dismantled before it can be rebuilt into something that actually feels like yours. Stop treating your life like a project that needs better management and start treating it like a question that needs an honest answer. What do you want this to mean? What do you want to stand for? What would make you feel like your time here mattered, independent of any external measure of success? And once you have even a partial answer to that, then productivity becomes useful. Then systems serve a purpose. Then optimization is actually optimizing towards something that matters, instead of just making you more efficient at being empty. You don't need another morning routine, another productivity app, another system for managing your time. You need to stop managing and start meaning, stop optimizing and start asking. Stop being so incredibly productive at building a life you don't want. And start being brave enough to sit with the terrifying uncertainty of figuring out what life you do want, even if it's less impressive, less optimized, less productive by conventional measures, because a life that means something to you is worth more than a life that looks good to everyone else. And the moment you stop confusing productivity with purpose is the moment you can finally start building something that feels real instead of just efficient. Something that fills that emptiness instead of just organizing it. Something that makes you want to wake up not because you have tasks to complete, but because you have a life you actually care about living. And that's not something you can hack or optimize your way into. It's something you have to feel your way toward. One uncomfortable, unproductive, deeply meaningful step at a time.